Paul de who is now deceased. In my opinion, he was excellent. Simply amazing. Roddy McDowall, the kid star, also appeared to be the ideal Hollywood gentleman. He made friends with all of the big stars, collected movies, and shot stunning pictures. However, the FBI sent trucks and agents to raid his home on December 18, 1974. They confiscated more than 1,000 recordings and videos valued about $5 million. They discovered more than simply films. It was proof of something far more significant. At the end of the day, Roddy had saved himself by betraying his closest pals. Elizabeth Taylor, Rock Hudson, and others were unaware of what had happened to them. On September 17, 1928, Roddy McDowall was born in Herne Hill, London. Roderick Andrew Anthony Jude McDowall was his full name. The stage influenced his life from the beginning. Thomas, his father, was a merchant seaman. Wyfred, his mother, had always aspired to be an actress, but was never successful. So she poured her aspirations into Roddy instead. Roddy had already won a poetry contest when he was 4 years old. He began taking elocution lessons at age 5. His mother was determined to bring forth the best in him. He starred in his first movie, Murder in the Family, when he was 10 years old. He had acted in 16 films before he ever left Britain. During their 4 years at Hanover Academy, his sister Virginia and he won almost every drama prize. Virginia also pursued acting. Then came the war. When Roddy was 12 years old in 1940, German bombers were flying over Britain. His family escaped to America as part of Operation Pied Piper, a huge evacuation effort that relocated 1.5 million people. However, they only had $42 when they arrived in the U.S. due to wartime money regulations. His mother had to support them because his father had enlisted in the military. In the hopes that someone would notice Roddy, she took him to various talent agencies throughout New York. Hollywood noticed anything unique at that point. With his flawless British accent and his true narrative of fleeing conflict, Rod stood out as the child star Fox Studios had been looking for. Hollywood received his screen test directly. When director William Wyler watched it, he realized right once that Roddy had something special. He portrayed a youngster assisting someone in escaping the Nazis in Manhunt, his debut American picture. Released in 1941, it was familiar. He was cast in How Green Was My Valley by Fox that same year. Even though he was just 13, his performance helped the film win the 1942 Oscar for Best Picture, defeating Citizen Kane. For the film, the company invested $110,000 in creating an 80-acre recreation of a Welsh mining community. Using actual coal blocks that were brought from Wales, construction took 6 months. Roddy was hailed by critics as a promising young performer, who may compete with Shirley Temple. He was given a 7-year contract. My Friend Flicker, in which Roddy starred, earned $2 in 1943. $4 million in rental income. He portrayed Ken, a youngster who develops a bond with a wild horse. He had to work with real animals, including one that was unintentionally killed while filming, and learn how to ride a horse. Because of the film's enormous popularity, Fox produced a sequel in 1945. He was adored by audiences worldwide. He played the younger version of Gregory P.C.'s priest character in The Keys of the Kingdom in 1944, which gave him a more significant role. He had to act out intensely emotional scenarios, such as losing his parents in a storm, and speak with a Scottish accent. He was handling roles with significant complexity by the age of 16. In 1945, Molly and I followed. Roddy portrayed a grumpy teenager who thought his father detested him because he resembled his deceased mother. It was a mix of drama and comedy. In one scenario, he had to cry, while in another, he had to make amusing impressions. The audiences adored it. The fan mail came flooding in. Like many others during the war, he was perceived by others as a real boy, going through real hardships. However, things weren't simple behind the scenes. In 1944, Margaret O'Brien was the recipient of the Juvenile Academy Award, which many people mistakenly thought he had received. Nevertheless, Roddy was now his family's primary provider. He was making $2,500 a week at the age of 16, which is equivalent to hundreds of thousands of dollars today. He had little time for friends or a typical adolescent life because he worked 6 days a week. His mother kept everything while many kid stars lost their money. However, the strain caused him to feel nervous and homesick. People questioned if he would be able to shed his kid star persona as he got older. The Broadway production of Compulsion, which played from October 1957 to February 1958, was the catalyst for that transformation. It was based on the real-life murder of 14-year-old Bobby Franks in 1924. Roddy portrayed the icy and cunning young Arthur Strauss. Although his co-star Dean Stockwell remained, Bradford Dillman took his place when they produced the film in 1959. Nathan Leupold, the real-life murderer, even attempted, but was unable, to stop the film's production. Nevertheless, Rod's on-stage performance was a watershed. He portrayed a more sinister character in the thriller Midnight Lace in 1960. In contrast to the benevolent youngster he formerly portrayed, Malcolm Stanley was a wary and eerie character. Doris Day, who received a Golden Globe nomination, starred in the $3 Million film. Every moment had more intensity because of Rod, and viewers got to see a different aspect of him. In the same year, Roddy played King Arthur's illegitimate son Morid in the original Broadway production of Camelot. Before being replaced, he played the part for 284 times. There were 873 performances of the show overall. The Seven Deadly Virtues, one of his songs, became a favorite among fans. The production proved a hit despite backstage issues. His performance demonstrated his genuine theatrical talent and won him a Tony nomination. Then came Cleopatra's Turmoil in 1963. At $44 million, or more than $450 million today, Roddy portrayed Octavius in what at the time was the most costly movie ever produced. Fox had to sell up the land that would eventually become Century City after coming dangerously close to bankruptcy. Roddy was a close observer of the Elizabeth Taylor-Richard Burton scandal. The cost of her costumes alone was $94,000. The movie was the top-grossing film of that year, earning $57.7 million. Despite all the catastrophe, Roddy maintained his professionalism throughout. He portrayed Matthew the Apostle in the epic biblical film, The Greatest Story Ever Told, which took almost 3 years to complete in 1965. It featured more than 100 speaking parts and cost $20 million. Rather than the Middle East, they shot in the American Southwest. Sidney Poitier, Charlton H., and Max von Sydow were among the film's stars. Despite only making $15.5 million and losing money, Rod's performance demonstrated his progress. He demonstrated emotional and spiritual depth by portraying Matthew as a reflective, inquisitive guy. Few performers would ever accept what Roddy McDowall went through. In order to transform into Cornelius, the kind chimpanzee archaeologist in Planet of the Apes, he had to get up at 2:00 every morning and spend 3.5 hours in a makeup chair. When they originally tried the cosmetics, it could take up to 7 hours to apply and 3 hours to take off. In order to allow his skin to breathe, the studio had to develop new kinds of foam rubber because it was so hot. It was more than just a mask of cosmetics. It arrived in fragments, layers of hair, distinct chins, and distinct ears. He had to paint his lower teeth black as well. For months, he worked on this 5 days a week, and it paid off. The film, which cost $5.8 million to make, was released in 1968. It got very popular. His most well-known role was that of Cornelius. He gained notoriety for his diligent work ethic. Roddy didn't stop there, though. He continued to photograph behind the scenes with his 8mm camera. While others went home, he kept a record of the entire makeup procedure. He recorded the actors smiling, flying to the beach in a helicopter, and drinking through straws while sporting complete orangutan facial expressions. He even endured that lengthy makeup process in 1974 in order to make a brief appearance on The Carol Burnett Show and present his short documentary to the public. Roddy was the only one who had the idea to save those moments. Unbeknownst to him, he was recording history. He made a comeback in 1971 for the May 26th release of Escape from the Planet of the Apes. His personality changed this time. Although the plot was set in Los Angeles in the 1970s, he continued to portray Cornelius. The film looked at persecution and time travel. Action was no longer the only thing at stake. It had to do with feeling. The burden of that adjustment fell on Roddy. Because of his outstanding performance, the movie was the most acclaimed follow-up to the original series. Its emphasis on individuals rather than merely fireworks won it praise from critics. Roddy was responsible for that. Roddy returned in 1974 when the television adaptation of Planet of the Apes began, this time as Galen, a new character. Despite only having 14 episodes, Rod's presence provided the show dimension. He provided guidance for the writing. He even helped the team work more quickly by using his understanding of the drawn-out makeup procedure. In interviews and documentaries, he continued to defend the franchise's legacy despite the series' abrupt conclusion. Roddy was more than just a performer. He was a very skilled photographer as well. He published his daring photography book, Double Exposure, in 1966. It contained 98 celebrities and was 251 pages long, but each celebrity was described by another well-known individual rather than by journalists. James Baldwin characterized Marlon Brando. Katharine Hepburn featured Lauren Bacall. No one had ever done that before. Roddy became one of Hollywood's most trusted photographers as a result of the book's phenomenal sales. Since 1953, he has been contributing to magazines such as Vogue and Life. Everyone wanted to have their picture taken by him now. He then released Double Exposure, Take Two in 1989. It was darker this time. The part that shocked me the most was when Judy Garland was at her worst. She had been friends with Roddy when the Judy Garland show was being filmed in 1963. When no one else could, he took pictures of her when she was crying, ill, and exhausted during breakdowns. These pictures were accompanied in the book by candid statements from people who witnessed how the studio ruined her. She had been pushed so hard by MGM that she had lost her health by the time she aged 40. Those pictures showed the alcohol and the medicines. Roddy had witnessed it all firsthand. Roddy recorded a private beach party at his Malibu house one summer in 1965. It was no ordinary celebration. Burgers were being flipped by Paul Newman. Lauren Bacall was soaking up the sun without a top. Jane Fonda, Natalie Wood, Anthony Perkins, and Rock Hudson were present. Everyone calmed down. For once, they drank, smoked, and acted like regular folks. Even though her husband wasn't present, Natalie Wood flirted with a number of men. Roddy never made the video public. Although he was aware that it would destroy careers, those 16 reels gave us a new perspective on Hollywood. Private, honest, and unvarnished. Following his departure from a dinner gathering at Elizabeth Taylor's home in 1956, Montgomery Clift was involved in a horrific car accident. He nearly died after colliding with a telephone pole. His cheekbones, nose, and jaw were all fractured. His face was never the same after undergoing extensive surgery. Only a few weeks after the tragedy, Roddy, who had become a close friend, began capturing pictures of him. The pictures showed him rehearsing facial expressions in front of mirrors, while attempting to smile once more. When Cliff was alive, he never published them. He wished to keep his pal safe. However, those pictures subtly revealed the harsh price of celebrity and the strain to maintain perfection. Double Exposure. Take 4 was released by Roddy in 1993. His 50-year connection with Elizabeth Taylor was made public in this book. She talked about everything: her marriages, her weight issues, and her addictions. Her description of Richard Burton was, "I don't just love someone, I possess them." The pictures were devastating. One depicted her without makeup, while another showed her in tears following a divorce. As a testament to their profound trust, the book even featured a photo she had shot of Roddy. Their friendship, which lasted until his passing, began when they were young performers in 1943. Roddy contacted Elizabeth every day to see how she was doing. She felt protected with him. His voice can even be heard in the background of her old private recordings, now part of HBO's Elizabeth, The Lost Tapes. In 1998, Elizabeth flew back to Los Angeles to visit him daily, till the end of his cancerous life. She hosted a private memorial service at her house, following his passing. In 1957, a fictitious controversy from Confidential magazine nearly destroyed Maureen O'Hara. Roddy supported her, despite their accusations that she had committed ignominious acts at a theater's rear. Since they co-starred in How Green Was My Valley, in 1941 he had known her. Throughout the court proceedings, he took pictures of her, and remained by her side as her brother demonstrated that she hadn't even been in the nation. The case marked a sea change. It contributed to the demise of the publication that had harmed so many defenseless celebrities. Closeted actors like Tab Hunter and Rock Hudson were able to finally be themselves at Roddy's private Malibu parties. They felt secure, laughed, and exchanged secrets. Roddy captured part of it on camera, not to stir up controversy but to document their true selves, free from the masks and deception Hollywood had them wear. After that, Judy Garland made a reappearance in A Star Is Born. Despite having a massive budget of $5 million for 1954, the studio eliminated 27 minutes without the director's approval. Garland's career was permanently harmed by the choice, which also destroyed her prospects of winning an Oscar. Roddy witnessed everything. He took pictures of her arguments, her breakdowns, and her suffering. That movie is regarded as a masterpiece today. It almost broke her back then. Roddy never took his eyes off the truth, and that's how he caught it. Roddy McDowall was not simply an actor in Hollywood. He had subtly created his own private film archive by the early 1970s, something that even big companies lacked. He has 337 different pictures by 1974. His collection was centered around 160 of those, which were rare 16mm prints. In his garage in North Hollywood, he kept films including My Friend Flicker, Lassie Come Home, and Citizen Kane. Many of them were purchased directly from the studios, who were making room by discarding their original film reels. Even Errol Flynn's complete personal collection, including home movies and unfinished features, was purchased by Roddy from Flynn's widow. Because he thought tape would endure longer than film, he spent thousands moving them to Sony U-matic magnetic tape, which was invented before VHS and Betamax. Roddy didn't gather for financial gain, only the amount he recalled paying was charged to his buddies. He once claimed to have paid precisely $75 for 3 movies. He used his garage for more than just storing things. It turned into a miniature museum of lost movies. However, on December 18, 1974, everything changed. The FBI arrived that day with trucks and agents. During their raid on Rod's home, they found more than 1,000 videotapes and 160 film reels. The total value of the collection, according to the authorities, was $5,542. It was the FBI's largest ever raid on movie piracy. Prints of his own films, such as Tamlin, Lassie Come Home, and Planet of the Apes, were confiscated by the FBI. The recordings were labeled, packed, and preserved as if they were priceless. Behind the scenes, however, Roddy wasn't merely gathering. The government was constructing a case. He was illegally sharing and copying movies. Roddy was aware that things were risky. He decided to assist rather than fight. He provided names to the FBI. He informed them that he had received a print of the James Dean movie Giant from Rock Hudson. In addition, he mentioned Mel Torme, Dick Martin, and Arthur P. Jacobs from the Planet of the Apes television series. Official paperwork blurred out other names. People were taken aback. According to a fellow collector, Rod's loss of his films was heartbreaking, but abandoning his friends was even more painful. Even Roddy's close friend and well-known journalist, Robert Osborne, claimed years later that he was unaware that Roddy had complied. Rock Hudson never brought it up, if he ever found out. This is all the more devastating because of how it began. In the 1960s, Roddy started collecting as a guardian rather than a pirate. Old movies that the studios deemed useless were being discarded. Roddy felt that these movies had to be preserved. He had no intention of making money. He claimed that having copies aided his acting studies. To enhance his work, he even preserved a print of his death scene from Escape from the Planet of the Apes. However, the law was unconcerned. He violated copyright laws by selling or sharing tapes with other collectors, even at cost. Later, his attorney clarified that Roddy did not possess the rights to a large number of the prints. Studios, such as 20th Century Fox, continued to do so. The government abandoned the case by June 1975. Roddy was not prosecuted. The harm was done, yet there was no trial or jail term. He no longer threw movie evenings. A few pals never returned. Although he was exonerated, the raid will always be associated with his name. By assisting with the legal preservation of films, he attempted to move on. He became a member of the Academy's board, and eventually contributed to the establishment of the National Film Preservation Board. He even attempted to restore Cleopatra from 1963 in the 1990s. What started out as a private passion became a public caution. Saving something and stealing it are two very different things. Most people were unaware of another aspect of Roddy's existence. He first met Montgomery Clift in 1951, thanks to Elizabeth Taylor. The two men developed a strong romantic bond. To be near him, Roddy even relocated to New York. Roddy ceased performing nearly entirely for 2.5 years. Montgomery was his only concern. However, the partnership ended. Roddy was upset when Clift attempted to break things off. He made an attempt at suicide. Amazingly, he lived and never harbored resentment toward Clift. He remained by his side all the way through. Later on, they co-starred in Clift's final film, The Defector. Clift once remarked that without Rod's help, he could never have completed it. Being openly gay in Hollywood during the time Roddy lived there could have destroyed your career. Stars were being exposed by gossip magazines, such as Confidential in the 1950s. Rock Hudson almost got caught. Henry Wilson, an agent who handled a lot of gay performers, exposed some of his clients in order to protect others. He even scared off blackmailers with off-duty police. Although Roddy remained silent in public, he established a secure environment behind closed doors. His house turned into a haven where celebrities, gay and heterosexual, could unwind fearlessly. He protected people's secrets. He was frequently referred to as Hollywood's father confessor, since he knew everything but kept everything to himself. Roddy purchased a Malibu Beach property in 1965. He captured celebrities attending secret parties without makeup or protection. In addition to celebrities like Paul Newman, Lauren Bacall, and Jane Fonda, simply relaxing in the sun, there is footage of Julie Andrews strolling along the shore with her kid. These were not scenes from a movie. They were genuine trusting moments. Additionally, he cooked hot dogs, posed as a boyfriend, and wore nothing but short shorts for photo shoots with another closeted actor, Tab Hunter. It was risky yet fun. Both careers might have ended if the studios had seen those pictures. Throughout his life, Roddy only directed one film. It was based on a spooky old Scottish ballad and was named Tam Lin. With Ava Gardner at the forefront, he succeeded in 1967. It included bizarre hallucinogenic sequences that brilliantly encapsulated the 1960s. However, the film's production firm filed for bankruptcy before the movie could be released. For 3 years, it was kept on a shelf. It had been altered and disassembled by the time of its eventual publication in 1970. They even called it other titles, such as Toys and Games and The Devil's Widow. The film was a failure. Roddy never again directed. Critics were finally able to see what Roddy had attempted to produce in 1998, when Martin Scorsese assisted in restoring the original cut. They referred to it as a lost diamond. However, it was already too late. In 1985, Rod played one of his most significant parts. In Fright Night, he portrayed Peter Vincent, a TV vampire hunter whose program is canceled, since no one is interested in watching vampire killers anymore. Rod's life was nearly reflected in the part. He was feeling washed up after being sacked from a true horror show. He eventually encounters actual vampires in the film. The movie became a cult favorite and earned $24.9 million. For a while, it felt like a comeback, since young horror enthusiasts adored him. Ironically, he was too busy directing Tam Lin to make an appearance in Beneath the Planet of the Apes. It was the only ape movie in which he didn't feature. On October 3, 1998, Roddy passed away, leaving behind something remarkable. For decades, he had preserved home films, letters, and personal diaries. In his will, he said that no one could open them until 2098, 100 years after his passing. However, he did give them to Boston University. Everyone was taken aback. The contents must be explosive, according to legal experts. Protecting the living is the sole justification for sealing something for so long. Some people think the diaries reveal relationships, names, and secrets that the public should never know. Evidence of Elizabeth Taylor's violent marriage to Eddie Pfizer, which Roddy chronicled in his diaries, is purportedly contained in the collection. Letters concerning Rock Hudson's AIDS diagnosis and how the industry concealed it might potentially be included. Roddy knew the truth long before the public did, having known Hudson for years before his death in 1985. Additionally, he possessed recordings of intimate moments with celebrities like Paul Newman, Natalie Wood, and Anthony Perkins, as well as home videos of Judy Garland at private parties after drug-related breakdowns. Roddy's close friends and family think there is one diary entry, a page detailing his suicide attempt following his separation from Montgomery Clift. No one is permitted to read that entry, or hundreds of others like it, because they are kept in a locked archive. Not quite yet, but the world won't know until 208. In the meantime, Roddy McDowall continues to be one of the most intriguing, enigmatic, and devoted characters in Hollywood history.